Hey there, welcome to Becoming More Me, the podcast for busy-minded ADHD entrepreneurs who want to be more and do less. These episodes are crafted to inspire you to become more of the person you feel called to be in this world and let it be easy. I'm your host, Teresa Lear-Levine. I'm an EFT master practitioner, hypnotherapist, and international best-selling author of Becoming More Me, Tapping into Success, Subconscious Secrets of an ADHD Entrepreneurial Mom. I absolutely love helping people to get out of their own way, shed light on those shadows, and call back their power. I'm here to help make the never-ending journey of becoming one you truly enjoy being present for. And today, I cannot wait to introduce you to Dr. Divi. If you listened to some of the episodes that I had come out in the month of May and June, you heard her name come up a lot as the work that we did together at the retreat that I went to in Chilliwack was so impactful for my life and my business. And she is the founder of the Mind, Body, Spirit Center. She's an author, international speaker, teacher, and a certified medical intuitive. And she's been a family doctor for over 25 years. Her training is really diverse, and she works with issues like abundance, life purpose, stress management, depression, chronic pain, and parenting difficulties. She believes all life's issues are interconnected, and she really enjoys the ever-evolving nature of her work. In her practice, she's discovered that shifting mental and emotional states impacts our lives profoundly, affecting everything from our finances to our daily happiness, relationships, and physical health. We're going deep on this episode, guys. We're going to be exploring the power of intuition, energy healing, meditation, A Course in Miracles, and the interconnectedness of all things and people. So get ready. We're going to be encompassing personal growth and transformation, as well as the future of holistic medicine. And you are just going to love Dr. Divi. She is quite an experience. It all starts now. Hello, Dr. Divi. Thank you so much for being here with me today. It's beautiful to see you.
Thanks, Teresa. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here too.
So for regular listeners of my show, they've heard me talk about you because I had such an amazing experience, obviously in May at the retreat with Dan Harrison and Alexander Ohm for Soulful Sales, which they told us was a business retreat. But
Okay.
I feel that was very misleading because it was like a spiritual overhaul. So, so glad I was there, and definitely was heavily impacted by the day that we got to spend with you, so generously giving of your time and talents. And in episode 160 of my show, I go into a lot of the different takeaways that I had there. So thank you for everything that you offered to us there. And I would just love to spend some time just talking about, intuition and how you came upon this path, and, how you infuse your medical knowledge into your spiritual understandings and everything else. So if you don't mind, and actually before we go into the business side of things, just tell us a little bit about who you are as just a human being, what you like doing, maybe, I don't know, what kind of ice cream flavors you like, or something just off the cuff and bizarre that we could learn about you.
Complicated. Okay, I'm Dr. Divi. Married, kid. I have a 19-year-old son. I live here in Vancouver. A favorite ice cream, probably vanilla. I know that sounds so silly, but vanilla or any cheesecake flavor is good too. Any flavor. I love the beach. I love just hanging out. I know it sounds so silly, but I love just quiet time.
Mhm.
I love to meditate. I love to travel. I mean, I'm a pretty simple person. I love to just sit and read. I'm very simple. And yeah, that's just a little bit about me. I'm in my body a lot. I exercise a lot. I do a lot of yoga. I do a lot of physical stuff. Used to be really heavy into racing, mountain bike racing, triathlons,
Cool.
run marathons way back. Used to do a lot of hiking, like, did Nepal, did not part, like did a lot of those kinds of things
Wow.
in the 20s and 30s. And then, so now I'm in a little bit of a different phase of my life. So yeah.
Very cool. So, as a certified medical intuitive, how do you integrate your intuitive insights and your medical training when you work with clients or when you're teaching your students? Because I know you do both.
Yeah. So just a snippet background. I'm a physician, so I went to school for first, and then my intuition opened about 20 years ago when I was pregnant. And how I integrate them is I know what science says is causing whatever this illness. But then because I know that in my left brain, it helps me to identify, okay, well, the MRI showed this, the whatever. But then I use the energetic knowledge and metaphysics and intuition to understand why that's happening. So having an idea of how the body looks like and functions helps us to understand the emotions and the energy that is linked to the cause of the physical malady. So
Yeah, very
yeah.
cool. And I know, like, I feel like you have an insane gift, but I feel like you believe that almost anybody could tap into this and figure it out. So how do normal people, air quotes, learn these kind of skills?
Well, thank you for saying that. I don't think it's anything special because I think anyone can do it. I say that because me as a physician, that's what I did for God knows how many years. And then venturing into this world, I always say if I can do it, anyone can do it. The biggest thing for intuition is to meditate. That's the biggest thing. Work on your stuff, look at your shadows, look at your stories, look at your wounding, meditate more, start to trust that this is non-physical. And then personally, I believe people need training into connecting with it. And that's one of the parts of my business. I train people on how to do that. But intuition is the most natural gift we have. And I always tell people I never took intuition courses to do this professionally. I did it to be a mom. I did it because I wanted to integrate it in motherhood. And it was already something that was opening up for me, but I never thought I would do this professionally. So yeah, here I am. So
Yeah. Did you feel like stigma around kind of coming into this new way of doing business, or was it natural for you?
definitely there were bumps for sure, like leaving medicine into this world, there were bumps, but it wasn't a stigma around what physicians would think of me because I had left medicine to do yoga for a while. So I already dealt with that stigma. And then at a certain point, you just stop caring. Right. And then, so it's more just, it's not as much of a stigma as much as like, oh, geez, I hope I can help people. It was more of that. Right. Which I very quickly discovered I could, but it was more wanting to be of highest and greatest service to somebody. But the bumps, I think, are quite normal that anyone experiences when they leave kind of the mainstream to do something a bit alternative. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned the M word, meditation, which as an ADHD entrepreneur with that busy mind, monkey mind overwhelm that tends to happen quite often, and I know it happens for a lot of my listeners too, meditation can be really difficult, like in the standard sense of like quiet, clear the mind, that kind of thing. Do you have any recommendations? I mean, that's why I became an EFT practitioner, because for me, that's active meditation.
Right. But I always say to people, it's not about quieting your mind, it's just noticing your mind. So it's becoming the observer of your thoughts. And any moment can be meditation. So personally, I shared that I used to race triathlons and stuff. That was my first stepping stone. I started running to run from my mind to notice. So what I always tell people is do whatever can quiet your mind, then hang out there for 20 minutes after. So when you come home from your long run, just sit and get quiet, even if it means you're cutting your vegetables quietly, right? It doesn't have to be, and then if you keep practicing that, eventually it'll click in that you just want to sit and meditate. And again, that takes time and practice and patience. And when you sit and meditate and you're fighting, don't go do something else to get your body and mind more aligned so that you can.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I know, you did a TED Talk, I guess it was about 7 years ago. Is that
I
about
think
right?
so. Yeah, I think so.
The title was The Cure is Not in the Pill Bottle. And that was Montreal Women TEDx, right?
Yeah.
Um, I have been curious about TEDx talks for a couple of years myself. From a business perspective, did you feel like that was a big like growth strategy? Did it help your business, or did it help you build your confidence? Like what was your perspective on being involved in TED?
Um, it was a good experience. Don't get me wrong. I don't know if it did an escalation to my business as much as it granted people like, okay, she knows what she's talking about. TEDx picked her up, right? So it's a hard question for me to answer
Yeah.
because I personally believe you grow your business spiritually.
Hmm.
You grow your business energetically. So I think what it did was it built people's confidence in me, but I can't say that I noticed an escalation. Like I can't say that. Um, and I found the process interesting because Ted wants you to have a very minute to minute defined talk. And if anyone has heard me speak before live, I don't teach that
I
way.
have never heard you talk as slow as you talk on your TED Talk in real life.
Challenging. Um, and that was the biggest challenge for me is to have such a pre-prepared. And the other challenge for me with TEDx too was I think it's a great format, but it very much limits what you're allowed to say. Like you can't cross into the woo land. At least back then you can't. I can't speak for right now. So yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Well, because when we worked you helped me in May, we talked about like my vertigo and kind of that, like, I always kind of have that push pull. Like I'm always kind of like one foot in one world or idea and the other foot's in another world or idea. And that's kind of how I feel about pursuing like public speaking and TED Talks. It's kind of like how you said, like, just spiritually grow it or like use a strategy, or like I'm just kind of like back and forth there. So I was just curious. I always ask people when they've done that what their feelings were about it. So, I talked a bit about what happened in May, like I said on my podcast episode, but can you explain for people who are listening, like what happens at the experiences with you? Like what happened in that room of 20 some of us on that day in May? What was going
Good
on?
question. I've got another one coming up in a few weeks. How I describe it is if there's 20 people sitting there, we have what's called our spirit guides, which might sound like a weird word to some people, but we all have had the experience of a gut feeling. Where does that gut feeling come from? The theory of the work I do is that we have these non-physical spirit guides have been with us lifetime after lifetime. We have two or three of them, but it really doesn't matter how many we've got. We've got two or three of them. Then on top of that, we have ancestors or deceased loved ones, which we may or may not know, that are part of what I call our divine support team. Then any of the energies that you believe in, like Buddha, Muhammad, ascended masters, they're also there. So that room was full of everybody. So if everybody say, let's just make this number up, have 10 or 15 or 20, they're all there. And then mine are there. So your guides connect with my guides. But then on top of that, when I'm running a group, it's like the energy knows what is the main pieces that are going to be prevalent for this group to understand, to help them heal. Right? It's because everybody's got a different story, but everyone's got some main core wounds. So what my guides do is they'll say, Divi, pick that person and bring them up. And then I'll work on that person, but also teach at the same time because everybody represents everybody else.
Yeah.
So it's in my experience, it's a pretty magical experience. I use intuition 100%. I'm kind of useless without it. So they being my guides, my divine support team connects with your divine support team. And then that client is a representation of everybody. And then we pull in messages of healing for that person, but also for everybody. So that's
yeah, there was a lot going on.
Yeah,
that's for sure. And yeah, I remember the different things that were coming in and I don't remember certain things. Is it normal for people to kind of like blank out? I know for me, like I could not connect with like that good girl programming that you swore was there for me. And it totally is there. But it was like in that moment, I had zero connection to it. Like I could not recall any instance, and there's been plenty when that has been part of my conditioning and my programming.
And I don't remember. I guess I brought that up with you. I don't remember.
That's
It
okay.
is normal. So when you're trained as an intuitive, one thing they teach you is you could get a client up and say, you have a blue card. Like, no, I don't. You have a blue card. No, I don't. And you just keep saying it because it's the picture you keep seeing. Because in that moment, the person has amnesia, and that's quite normal. It's very normal. And then they get off the stage or off that hot spot. They go, oh yeah, I do have a blue card. And it's very, very, very common. Why does it occur? Because in that moment, the unconscious, subconscious doesn't want you to access whatever that point was that the blue car represents. So it does happens all the time, but I don't think anything of it because it's just that person's resistance point. So
I did think something of it because, we started working on like my eye, like my actual eye, my vision, that kind of a thing. And then for me, it became more about like the consciousness of vision and everything else. And it was about like the way I was seeing that or experiencing that. And it was also about the way that I was being perceived and seen.
Like I said, I don't have a lot of memory at all of that day. I don't remember specifics. And it's amazing that you took, because I don't know what people take from the event, but it's amazing that you put those puzzle pieces together, was like, oh, wow, that's connected with my eye. That's the energetics behind what's happening on my retina or my cornea. It's when we go ahead.
It was just interesting because the week before I had been having like my one-on-one coaching session, and it was with Alexandra that week. And we were trying to kind of connect some things that felt disconnected for me around like abundance and blockages and things there, which then continued into the retreat also and unraveled from there. But one of the things I said to him, I said, it feels like it feels like I'm in this like group of people and like everybody's standing around, like kind of like pointing and laughing, like they all get it and I don't. And then that literally like recreated itself in that moment up there with you, where I just felt like I don't get it, but everybody else is telling me that like I should be mad or I should be this or I should be that. And I'm just like, I'm not getting it. So I manifested that one for sure. But
And have you been able to unpack it since?
it like little things come up from time to
Yeah.
time that unpack it further for sure. If you have any insights, feel free to offer them.
A lot of times when there's for lack of a better word, a wall or something that we're looking at that way, it's almost like the unconscious doesn't want to touch it. We just have to surrender it to spirit and say, I need help with this. I know it's there. I can't see it. Haha. I can't see it. I can't understand this. But it's the surrendering to Holy Spirit and literally saying anything to show it to me in any way you need to. Right. And then with time and patience and paying attention, they'll show it to you. But I just keep hearing, tell her not to make it a big deal. You're already unraveling. That's what I keep seeing. They're showing a picture of an onion layer. She's unraveling it. And that they're saying it's weird to see herself as naked without that identity, which is why it's so close to her. It's like, oh, and you're getting closer and closer to who am I without that persona.
Cool.
They just showed me a picture of like the Olympics are on right now. Who am I without that gold medal? Who am I without that label, that definition? So,
Yeah. That's definitely what's being explored for sure. New identities, the new beliefs to go along with them. But it's interesting how little I care about the actual I anymore. I mean, because we had met like it's been about a year, I guess, at this
I think
point
so.
that,
Yeah.
that we met originally and talked about it. And I guess there was a lot more like worry and concern about what was happening with my eye. And now I'm just kind of like, whatever. It's the eye that has a hole in the middle of it that sees things differently, and other things get to be seen because that eye doesn't see those parts. So, I'm much more accepting of whatever's happening there, whether it wants to heal or not.
And that's a key part of healing is when we can let go of the effect when we talk about cause and effect, because the effect is just the eye. The cause is the energetics. And I just keep seeing you're really close to it, like you're really
Huh.
close to it. And it's like, oh, wow. I love that.
That's very exciting. Hopefully, we'll get to do more of this work in November at the
Oh, that's right.
at Alexander's next retreat, for sure. So, you mentioned you're also a parent. I have a 19-year-old too. He's the oldest of my four boys. And how has this gift of yours come in handy, or maybe even been problematic with parenting?
Probably it's a good question to ask him. It's come in handy in the sense of like it's not just the intuition I use, but I use a lot of trust in my divine support team and my guide. So I'll give you a small example. I think as moms, not that we worry all the time, but things can come up to cause us worry, right? And so my son was just traveling in Europe for 6 weeks at the beginning of the summer, and he's 19 and he's 19. And and so I just not just it took work, but I put my divine support team on him. I put his divine support team on him. Whenever I would worry, I'd be like, okay, you take care of him. Right. And it's like it gives you almost a muscle that is not, he's fine, that is not of yours. Does that make sense? Because we can sit here and fret and fret and fret and text and text and text and call and call and call and get on a plane and go,
Sure.
or we can breathe. And so that's just an example of how it can handle. And, yeah, so I think there's like a million examples since he was born in which I've used skills like that to entrust in my faith in him and his soul. Because in how I was raised in the culture I come from, I'm sure a lot of people believe this, his soul was just given to me. He's not my child as much as he is perceived as he's come through my body.
Yeah.
But he's a child of God himself. He has his own path and his own karma and his own energy to sort out. So the more I can have this attachment, yes, also detachment to what occurs for him, the more blessed I am and the more blessed he is.
Yeah.
So
To be responsible to him instead of for him.
exactly. Well said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not easy though all the time, that's for sure. I tried to do the same thing, but I can definitely flex that muscle a little bit more. That's for sure. So, can you elaborate a little bit on how like shifting emotional states can positively impact like physical health or even relationships? Maybe some like practical steps for initiating that.
Sure. I'll do physical health, relationships separately. Those are connected. Every thought is energy. Every thought has an emotion. There's no such thing as a neutral thought.
Mhm.
And that emotion goes to our body. What happens is our body gets sick and we show up at our practitioner's office, Jason, a doctor, a specialist, a naturopath. We're like, fix this. And they can only help so much because they're dealing with the after effect of a thought. So we have to start to look at our thoughts as real. Okay. So here's one of the most popular. I teach a zillion tools and techniques. One of the most popular is general versus specific thought. A general thought is, imagine I went 20 feet back. My wall went back to a general thought is I'm a 5'6" woman with dark hair. The specific thought is I'm a 5'6" woman with silverish earrings on, 1,000 gray hair and 1,000 brown hair and 1,000 black hair. The more specific your thought, the faster the momentum. The more general the thought, the slower the momentum. Let's use it, for example, because every thought can go into my body and create peace or illness. It's that simple. Love or fear. So if I'm really in a thought pattern that's getting really specific and it doesn't feel good and it's fear-based, get general. So my kid went to Europe. Specific is, oh my God, he'll lose his passport. Oh my God, something bad's gonna happen. Do you get it? Oh my God, it's gonna happen in jail. General, he's 19. A lot of people go to Europe all the time. People younger than him travel the world. He's, not bad responsible. He's okay. He's smart. He can connect to me spiritually. He's got my credit card. Like, see how general you can back up. You can actually slow down the more momentum. The more specific, the faster it goes. Mm-hmm. So if you get general, then spirit can have, because spirit is sending us thought every single moment of the day. Spirit is from the divine sending us thoughts of love and peace and joy. And we can tap into that or not. The more general we get, the more we can hear them. And then those thoughts go into the body and create illness or not. So that's how I work with the body and those thoughts. Relationships are exactly the same because and it depends on what level people are ready to hear about relationships, but all relationships are a reflection of something in me. All relationships are something for me to heal. There's no out there and in here. There's just me. I'm the only thing. Everything out there is me. So if something's triggering me, I got to look in what in me is that. And that's how that's how I work in relationships. A little bit different than mine, but very similar at the same time.
Yeah, no, I love that. And obviously there's times, I suppose, when we're working towards things that we want to bring more of, when speeding things up is a positive aspect.
Exactly.
Have you joined the Becoming More Me community over on School, one of the fastest growing learning platforms without distractions and ads? If no, I'd love to see you there. My community is full of amazing, busy-minded entrepreneurs who are working on becoming who they feel called to be in this world, in life, in business, with their health, with their wealth, with their relationships, and doing it in a way that's fun and pleasurable. I have over $15,000 worth of actionable resources, things you can start using and implementing today, as well as all the information that you need if you're interested in small group coaching, one-on-one work, or any of the other services that I have to offer you, including the Becoming More Me with EFT program. Hop on over to School, SKOOL.com/discovery. Type in my name, join the community, and I cannot wait to welcome you there.
Exactly. I say people get specific when things are really working out well and it's going really, really well. And now not just do you want to manifest a house, you want to manifest a boat and 6 homes. Go specific. To me, when things are more fear-based, get general.
Yeah. No, I love that. Yeah. I ended up kind of deep diving into A Course in Miracles after the retreat.
Yeah.
It had been one of those books or teachings that I had visited a bunch of times beforehand, but it has always felt like too thick or too slow or too much. And I ended up finding a really great series of meditations based on it on like YouTube that I could like listen to in almost like a hypnotic state. And that for me was like that flipped the switch, because that was like how I could get the information in a way that like my monkey mind could handle and didn't require me like reading. I don't do well with reading. How has A Course in Miracles impacted like the way that you teach and the way that you think? Because I know you're a student of it also.
I study every day. So A Course in Miracles is a gentle rewiring of your mind to not think that, and basically all or almost all self-development books are based on it, right? Wayne Dyer's work, Eckhart Tolle's work, Deepak Chopra's work is all based on ACIM. And is their interpretation, Marianne Williamson's, their kind of work with it. For me, what ACIM does is more solidifies the idea that this is just an illusion and the only thing that's real is the divine. So it solidifies it more and more every day for me. Mm-hmm. And it helps me to help people get out of their thought processes. So I use a combination of intuition, of course, miracles, understanding universal laws. I use all that stuff when I teach. My background in medicine, I use all of it. So it just helps me to really dive into the energetics more than when I just use intuition. Like it helps me to really dive into it deeper.
Yeah, so, I can see how to do that. So after you've done a workshop like the one that you did with all of us back in May, how are you personally affected by that? Like both like at the end of the day from like your own energy to like what do you walk away from that feeling or understanding or experiencing?
So typically tired would be number one. Takes me usually about half a day or a day to recover, more just physically. I'm tired, right? I have a 5-day retreat coming up in Whistler, but the longer ones are easier because I'm not like with you guys, it was like a blast from 2 till midnight. Right? And so then I get tired and I usually take a day or two to physically recover. And then what I don't, because I don't remember everything, I take with it the emotional shifts that people made. So a number of people in your group that made pretty profound emotional shifts, and that feeling in my body is like, oh yeah, that person, not that person, but that energy shifted. So that's the stuff I remember. Mm-hmm. Versus my retreats, because they're longer, I don't need like 5 days to recover. I just need a few days to kind of simmer in it after. But what is left for me is more sitting in spirit would be my answer to you. It's more sitting in the truth of who they are.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I noticed that for the 2 weeks that followed that retreat, and I'm not sure if it was our time with you, if it was the combination, I don't know what it was, and I wish if I could put a finger on it, I'd bottle it. But you know, for 2 weeks, I had zero anxiety or anxious thoughts or fearful thoughts. I was like I was floating. There were literally times when, if my eyes were closed, I could not tell if I was or was not floating, and I just didn't even want to open my eyes and break out of it. But it was just like such bliss and such euphoria. And is that something that you hear of much?
I hear it a lot after my events. It's actually quite normal because I'm pushing. Now, I think it was actually a combination because there's, it was a bit shorter than mine are, and like not necessarily shorter, but they had so many great speakers. And I put myself on that list, right? And like back to back to back, and amazing people, right? But yeah, I hear it all the time when people leave my events. They're like flying high for a month or a couple of weeks or whatever, where it's like the expression from A Course in Miracles, I am as God created me. Mm-hmm. People walk around feeling, knowing, and believing that. And that becomes their experience. So, and that's why I teach the work I do, because then it becomes, when people join me regularly, like weekly, it becomes their experience, or regularly. So,
yeah. And I know right after we finished our session together at the retreat, all I wanted to do was wash my feet. Is that anything to do with that? I walked around the side of the house, found the hose bib, and just like hosed my feet off because it was like something needs to like wash off here.
My sense is that's more like you're grounding into Mother Earth, but also into the love of the divine, no longer into the old you. It's like, I'm clean now, I can cleanse. And that's, becoming more me, right? I'm now, I just got goosebumps. I'm now ready to acknowledge that I am that.
Yeah. It was a strange sensation because I felt very disconnected from the group after we finished together. And I know you sent me outside to like walk around and just kind of get some sunlight and things like that. And I just remember like walking and then crying, getting a couple of hugs from people. And then I was like, I've got to wash my feet. Like I don't know, I've got to wash my feet. So, and then I came back and all was well, and it continued and felt much better. But yeah, I felt there was a very like disconnective feeling like of like not being part of the group.
Right.
Being very separate. And yeah, I remember saying to one of the guys that was there, I'm like, I don't feel like part of this. Like I feel very unconnected and disconnected right now. It was not a good feeling. I don't know why that was, but there it was. And I was feeling it because that was another thing you instructed me to do was feel the feeling. So I just let myself feel shitty and deal with it.
And then that's something obviously that wants to heal, right? Even the thought of being disconnected, that thought of separation Remember, I talked about the 3 beliefs of ego, right?
Mhm.
That's a belief of separation that you're holding on to.
Yeah, share the 3 beliefs of ego if you don't mind. So listeners.
Oh, sure. The 3 beliefs of ego is from Law of One. The first belief of ego is lack or sadness. They talk about that being located in your first chakra. So if you think about it, the origin of that is you come into the human body and you perceive your lack or separate. So that and the whole idea is that you're separate from God. And then because of that first belief of ego becomes the second belief of ego is that I need something to make me feel better. So that creates attachment. And then if I don't have it, I get angry. So first one is sadness from lack. Second one is attachment, which creates anger. So I always say, well, I want the BMW, I want the husband, I want the kid, I want the house. So attachment creates anger. Because I'm now attached to something, that comes to the third belief of ego, which is control. I got to do it. I got to get the BMW. I got to get the husband. And then that creates fear. So I got to go do it, creates fear. So, but it all eventually comes back to the first belief, which is separation from God, separation from the I am.
Yeah. Man, that ego.
Keeps us busy.
It definitely does. It feels like there's like no amount of work one can do to totally like get it all figured out.
And
Keep
just to
track of
be in
that
it minute to minute, right? Of that awareness.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about like the future of holistic medicine from your perspective. Because if you were going to look ahead, what kind of like trends or advancements would you foresee in this field? And like, how do you think that other practitioners could actually like embrace these changes?
Your favorite, so I can talking to metaphysicians. So like I'll tell you I'm sure if you talk to Jason or bioenergetics, he'd give you a different answer.
Well, I'm talking to
Um,
you, so I want to know yours.
I know, sister, I know. Um, I believe that in 100, probably more like 1,000 years, people will actually more embrace energy thought in creation of their diseases. And then using things like what Jason does in bioenergetics as a supplementation to assisting them. But people will be using more their intuition. People will be using more their third eye. People will be seeing their bodies as not real, but a reflection of their thought system. So I think that that's going to be more incorporated. I don't know if it's going to be incorporated more in the mainstream, whatever mainstream is anymore, because I think that that system is demolishing, at least in here in Canada is. So that system is shifting. So I think there's going to be this massive role for people to play in terms of understanding energy better and understanding their thoughts better. And that being almost like their go-to of like, okay, my back pain is because I lost my job. My neck pain is because I think my husband's cheating on me. Like that kind of stuff. I think I've got this cancer because I never loved myself. Like that might be there. And what's interesting is when I used to work as a physician, I'm talking pre-internet, like we're talking a while ago when I first graduated. So internet didn't exist back then. Okay. So people couldn't look up, okay, I've got lung cancer, what do I do?
Right.
So I remember telling people they have such and such diagnosis, such and such. So I remember very well back then, I can't speak to it now because I don't work anymore. But I used to tell somebody, you've got such and such. And almost all, and back then the business used to be 20 minutes, not 3 minutes. So it's changed, right? So back then people would comment back, it was like almost like a knee jerk of, I think I have this because, and they would fill in the blanks themselves. I remember diagnosing one woman with lung cancer. She was a 70-year-old Chinese woman. And I remember saying it to her. She looked at me in the eyes and she said, I think it's because I hate my son. I felt like my jaw was kind of the ground. That was before I entered this world. And I remember telling women they had, say, a bad bladder infection. I think it's because I hate my husband. Like they would say it almost knee jerk. Right. But it's also because I had relationships with them. This was a different time.
Sure.
In medicine, when you had relationships with your physician. So yeah, so I think that's going to come back in a different way where it's more ownership of your thoughts, emotions, and what's going on. So yeah.
That would be great. I'd love to see that. How do you like to approach things like what I'm going through in my life right now, which is like perimenopause and hormones and things like that? How do you look at things like that?
Right. So I'm there as well. I'm jokingly going to say I don't. I look at it like I look at the phase of perimenopause, menopause, the ups and downs very much related to what my thoughts and emotions are. Like, what have I not unpacked that's being peeled away for me to heal here? Right. So for me, menopause hasn't been that bad. I've had the occasional night sweat. Relatively, like I've seen, because I used to work as a doctor, I saw lots of women who struggled with it. Relatively moved through it so far with not too many problems. But I think a lot of it's because I've unpacked a lot of my emotional garbage, which never ends. right? So I look at everything as emotions, everything.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Um, and then when it comes to like life purpose kind of things, because I know that's another like big topic, and I would imagine that comes out a lot when you're teaching people to
Sure, it
do
does.
this
Yeah.
sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, how would you guide someone in uncovering like their true purpose, and how do you feel that plays a role in like overall well-being?
I believe everyone's purpose is service of some sort. Guy who's picking up the garbage truck right now, guy who's delivering milk. Everything's a service, and it comes of love for love. So I always say to people, and most people know this comment: what would you do that you would do for free? What brings you such passion that it seems to flow through you with such ease that you love it? What is your passion? I don't think I'm going off topic, but I would say to people, go to the Indigo Chapters bookstore, or whatever, walk around. I'm going to give you an hour, walk around and come back and let's talk. And what are the 3 sections you went to? That tells you a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Do you go right away to food, which I never go to? Do you go right away to interior design, which I never go to? Do you go right away to cars, right? That tells you where you're getting pulled, where your interests are.
Where do you
Your
go?
interests, pardon?
Where do you go?
Oh, well, self-help, new age.
Me too.
Where else do I go? I'm as boring as I get. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, that's so like that gives you an idea of what your interests are, right? I know a lot of people don't go to bookstores anymore, but that's a really great way to know what am I interested in. And
I
your
feel like I
interests
encounter
are
a lot
so
of
fun.
people in my clients who feel like they've done so little for themselves over the last, years, decades, what have you, because they've either been raising children or taking care of aging parents or a combination. And when you ask them what they want, it's been so conditioned out of them because they've been people pleasing or whatever else. They literally do not know what they like anymore or
Totally.
what's pleasurable for them or anything else. What would be your way of kind of coming back
Yeah,
around to that?
totally understand that. So the next step is to just spend some time in stillness. Okay. And I don't mean just sit still in your house. I'm not saying that. If you're done your parent stuff and you're done your kids, or let's just say that's still happening, I would mark 3 months from today's date, which right now it's August. Go 3 months till say October, November. Just give yourself 3 months. And when you're not actively caregiving to your parents or your kids, in that time that you're not actively doing that, get quiet. Spend time journaling. Spend a bit of time meditating. What are your loves? Try not to go distraction void. Distraction void is need to meet that girlfriend, need to drink that alcohol, need to go learn new sport. Stop that for a bit. Get quiet. And if you're getting a pull to, I really, really want to take up tennis, go take it up. But you have to get quiet to listen to that internal whisper because every human has it. So give yourself 3 to 6 months. And I think most people who, in the lines of work that we're in, I'm helping people. Most of us have had our fall apart moment. That fall apart moment is amazing because that fall apart moment has you sit still and go, WTF.
Hey, interrupting this episode super quick because I'll bet you didn't know that you can hop on a free, no strings, 15-minute call with me and get answers and insights into those things that are challenging you the most in your life and business right now. And receive several insights from me that will really help you to start moving the needle in those areas where you desire transformation, be it your business, your personal life, your health, wealth, relationships, all the things. So go to gamechangingconversation.com, select a time, and we will meet and have a conversation about what's going on in your life and the outcomes that you would most like to create in the next several months. Can't wait to meet you and chat with you on a call. Now back to the episode.
Right. And we've had multiple of those moments, don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah.
But but a lot of people avoid it. Right. I know my parents are aging as well. And I went home to see them about a month ago. I can't remember. And I found myself thinking, I could just stay here and just take care of them. Right. And financially be fine because they would take care, like, it's just like, yeah. And I saw myself thinking that thought because my son's old enough now. I saw myself actually putting a pause in my life. I'm like, interesting thought, Div. And again, nothing wrong, nothing right or wrong. I don't have to stay with them. Right. There's not right? There's other people who can take care of that. But so I saw myself wanting to do that. I can see why people do it, right? Putting a pause is easy. So
For sure. I hear you comment often like that you don't remember things. Does that come with the territory of what you do because
very
there's
much,
so many other voices and things coming in and out and
100%,
contributing?
100%. Because when especially when I'm teaching classes and in that intuitive channel, if I remember everything they're telling me, I get exhausted, right? I'm just literally the receptacle for the intuitive knowing to come through to be of service to this person. But if I hold on to it, like, oh, that's mine, then I can't let the next thing come in, can't let the next thing come in, right? I am just that vessel. I'll remember something. So I was teaching a workshop in Big White where some of your friends were there from that
I
event.
know, it looked
And
amazing.
I remember sometimes Goddess Kali comes in and she's the angry one.
She was there when you were working on me. She was
Was she
standing right
really?
behind me. Yep.
I don't remember that. See, I don't remember that.
Yep. Well, you were saying how I needed to get angrier, and you invited Dan and Alexander to spend as much time pissing me off as they wanted to over the coming weeks because I needed to
I don't remember
experience
that.
more of that. They've been cool, but I think Facebook ads decided to be the one that pissed me off instead. So,
Totally.
it's come and I've dealt with things and it's been interesting. Let's
I love that. I remember sometimes when Kali comes through and it's just like it's so not my personality. So it's like, "Ugh." And so that happened a lot, not a lot, happened a lot in Big White. But I don't remember specifics of stuff very much. But it's the only way to be the channel of what comes through. So
yeah, just keep letting stuff go.
totally.
Which is kind of what we all need to do, right?
Mm. Yeah, we don't have to hold on to anything. Yeah.
Any great advice around surrender or letting go?
Don't take anything seriously.
How
I
do you
mean,
advise doing that? I totally understand that, but I mean, we take so many things so seriously. Like, we really think that things are life or death that aren't.
I think it's partly because I've watched a lot of people die in my careers. So when you watch one person die and you see that that person turns into dust, it's like, what just happened? Like there's this awareness, and all you can leave with is your spiritual development. The only thing that will impact your next lifetime, if you believe in that, is how much you've spiritually learned in this lifetime. Right? So when you enter the spiritual realm, you're like, it doesn't matter that I gave that person the finger because it's me. I've got to figure out my shit. It's not about them. So then you'll really dive into your own work because nothing is important other than your relationship with the divine. That's the only thing that you will leave with. So
Yeah. And outside of A Course in Miracles, what do you do to like develop and work with your relationship with the divine?
I meditate a lot. When I go for walks in nature or even just walks, I feel like spirit's walking with me.
Yeah.
That's what I do for work. It's so meditation, ACIM. I read a lot of spiritual books. ACIM is just one that I'm into right now. Yeah, those are my 2 or 3 main things I do.
Awesome.
So yeah,
And how, I
but
know
I
you
have a
got,
simple life.
I know you said you had a retreat coming up. This
Yeah,
episode should air in the beginning of September. So are there any cool things coming up that you want to mention that
yeah,
people might
sure.
be interested in or ways to work with you and find you?
Sure. So I I'll say still now, might still be there in early September. I offer complimentary like 20-minute introductions. People can do it on my website. I think we did that. I think we
We
did that.
did. Yes, we did.
That's one option. I have a program called Return to Self, which is an intuitive coaching program to develop the skill set I've got. I have that retreat in September, which is almost full right now. So it'll probably be full by then, but that's okay. And I've got another retreat, which will probably be on my website by September, I think in Scottsdale in November.
Nice.
So that'll be coming as well. So,
Very cool. Awesome. And I hope I get to see you in November also.
and yes, I might see you in November.
Yes.
Just figuring out dates right now.
Awesome.
Oh, that one. Yeah. That Scottsdale one's November. I think that's what I said. And then you guys are right after.
Yeah.
So I've penciled into my book right now. So
Very cool. Very cool.
lovely.
Are there any closing thoughts or things you'd like to leave us with as we wind up the episode?
The one thing I would say to everybody is please remember that there's an energy of love that's being sent to you right now. Just have to be aware of it. Just if you close your eyes for a second, breathe into that concept, you feel even like 1% lighter, that means you've tapped into it. And that's our
There.
only job as a human is to know that it's there all the time.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time and your wisdom and your insights with us. And to all of you listening, I know you have a million choices when it comes to the podcast you listen to. So thank you for listening to Becoming More Me. Thanks for spending some of your precious time with me today. If you loved this episode, please leave a review or simply share it with someone else who would get great benefit from it too. If you share on social media, please tag me so I can personally connect and thank you. Until next time, keep taking bold and brave steps towards becoming more of who you want to be in this world. You are capable, you are worthy, and you are enough. And if your inner critic is still trying to argue with those facts, hit me up. We've got work to do.